Summaries of the Telepathy Tapes podcast for busy people, or those friends that you're trying to convince to go listen to it and they say they don't have the time, you can just send them this playlist instead. So the podcast is about non-speaking autistic individuals who seem to exhibit extraordinary abilities like telepathy. Teleho, they read minds. And that sounds pretty out there, but the host and director, Kai Dickens, goes through lengths to show us that the podcast is intended to stretch our minds and not the truth. You can actually go see the video footage from the experiments on their website. So she partners with Dr. Diane Powell, who is a Johns Hopkins trained neuropsychiatrist who investigates claims of telepathy among these non-speaking autistic people. And this is a very dangerous game for scholars, academics, and scientists. If they even start to skirt the edges of parapsychology, they risk their licenses, they risk their reputations, and in fact, Dr. Diane Powell at one point submitted a paper to her board about this. They took one look at what was in the title, ESP, and they decided to revoke hers. So she actually lost her license for a period of time, but it was reinstated because it is actually more illogical to deny the possibility of these things than to be open to the evidence that we are seeing. So the first 4 episodes introduce us to a range of non-speakers from all over the world, and they all share similar stories in the sense that the parents of these children were told by doctors that no one's in there, and the education system refused to educate their children beyond like colors and counting to 10 because no one's in there. And so there's just this presumed incompetence. And the teachers and parents who are brave enough to go against the establishment stumble on spelling, which is a way for non-speakers to communicate by typing because it requires gross motor skills as opposed to the fine motor skills that we need for speaking. So just a different way of communicating. And when they develop the ability to communicate via spelling, the parents discover that not only are these children wildly intelligent, like some of them are polyglots after having no lesson or formal training in other languages, but they have these rich inner lives. And perhaps most remarkably of all is that they seem to exhibit telepathic abilities. And so there's dozens of stories from parents and teachers about how these kids knew things they had no way of knowing, knew things that were going on in their private lives, knew things that had happened during the day, even though they were at school and their parent was at work. And while the stories are cool, those are just anecdotes. So what happens when we take these claims of telepathy and put them to the test? The results are astounding, and that is what we will talk about in part 2.